What's wrong with being confident?
Welcome to the Art of Improvement. I'm Giovanni Marotta, and with me is Karen Klaus.
And of course, Randy Carroll, San Antonio icon, DJ Deluxe, KJ97. Thanks, Randy. We loved your story last time. Now we want to know the juicy bad stories.
Yes, we want all the bad stuff.
I hate the word icon.
Why? What does that mean to you?
I'll tell you why I hate the word icon, because my friends make fun of me when somebody says it.
They're just jealous.
I did let's see how long ago. It's about 7 or 8, 9 years ago. The Texas Trophy Hunters TV show did a deal on my radio career, and they took me out on a hunt. And when they filmed this hunt, it was a bow hunt, and it was a South Texas white-tailed deer hunt.
Cool.
And it was very
cool.
It was very cool. Well, when they put it on TV on the Outdoor Channel, you flipped open the guide, and it said something like, South Texas radio icon hunts white-tailed deer or something, and my friends are like, "Oh yeah, Mr. Legend, Mr. Icon,"
and you're like, "No, really, I am. I am."
Oh, great! I had to put up with that nonsense.
Oh my gosh! You know, when I worked in radio a long time ago, I always used to say you really don't need to love the music in order to work in radio. You just need to find the right job and the right people. But you love country music, don't you?
No, I really do. I grew up around country.
I know. It's like, wow.
I grew up around country music. My dad was a huge country music fan. My dad was a big Johnny Cash fan.
Love Johnny Cash.
When I was 15 years old, we lived in Pleasanton. My dad was working a construction job in Floresville. He's building a house out there. He came home one afternoon, and he had in his hand his business cards, and on the back of them, one of them was autographed by Johnny Cash.
Oh.
The other one was autographed by June Carter Cash.
What?
And I'm like, wow, Dad, where'd you meet Johnny Cash at? He's making a movie in Floresville.
Unreal.
You still have those?
They're somewhere.
You better go find them.
I'm not in possession of them. However, that weekend, Dad loaded the entire family up. We drove out. He found out where they were shooting that day. We drove out to this dirt road in Wilson County, and this 15-year-old kid got to meet Johnny Cash.
Wow.
Really?
That's amazing.
And somewhere, my brother and my sister has this great Polaroid picture of us with Johnny Cash. I would love to have it. I have not even a digital copy of it. I'm so frustrated.
That is amazing. I mean, when you said your dad packed everybody in the car and said, "Let's go," I mean, that to me says that he may have been a little bit interested in music and showbiz and that, and maybe that's where you and your brother got it.
Oh, most definitely. It's all about performance with Dad.
Well, like what? I mean,
what did he do?
I mean, Dad played guitar and sang.
Nice.
You know, in fact, the old song Jackson that Johnny and June sang,
Yep.
my mom and Dad would sing that in the living room.
How cool.
with a guitar. So we were always around music, always.
And so did y'all all learn how to play instruments, the family?
Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was 9 years old. My little brother started probably before he was 9, and it's his God-given gift. My little brother is a freak.
Yeah.
He makes his living playing guitar. He's always in a studio somewhere playing for somebody, or he's on the road playing for somebody. He is just really good at what he does.
That's awesome. And you know, one thing that we didn't talk about last time, you are talking about Johnny Cash, and you mentioned Roy Clark, but you have met everybody. You've met everybody in country music.
That is one of the cool things about my job. You grow up watching all of these, like the CMA Awards and the Academy of Country Music Awards. And you always dream about, wow, what would it be like to go there or to be on one of those shows or to hang out with those people. And then you get to go, and you get to meet all of these people, and some of them become your friends. And
Like who? Tell all.
Yeah,
I want to know.
I mean, just shoot. I mean, I go back a long ways. So, the Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn from Brooks and Dunn.
So how did that relationship start?
That relationship started. They showed up at the radio station, and I probably have the picture in my phone here. They showed up at the radio station early '90s. They just signed. Oh, let me back up before that. I'll back up before that. I was in Nashville, and Alan Jackson's second album was about to come out, and his producer Tim Dubois said, "Come on, Randy, I'm gonna take you and some other boys over here. We're gonna go listen to Alan Jackson's new album." I said, "Okay." So we go jump in the car and we run over there. We pull up to the studio, and we pull up to the studio. There's a Ford truck out there with the lid up, and there's two guys working on it under the hood. And I thought, oh, poor guys trying to get their daggum vehicle started. So we go in, we listen to this new Alan Jackson album, and then my friend Tim says, "Oh, okay, we want to introduce you to these two boys we just signed that are going to be our next artists." And it's Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn. Come on in, boys. And it's the guys that were working on their truck out in the parking lot.
So this was way early on, right?
Yeah, this was way early on. This is before their first song came out. And so we actually listened to their first single, which is Brand New Man, there in the studio that night. And that was my first introduction to them. And then they came by on a radio tour to San Antonio, and I think we went to Metieres. And so I have a great 8x10 the original black and white 8x10 that says, "Thanks for the heartburn, Randy." Kix and Ronnie.
What do you do with all of this, memorabilia that you have? Do you frame it? Do you keep it in albums? Do you hang it on the walls? Where is it all? You must have so much.
Right now it's in boxes and storage.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good. We just had a storm.
Some of it hangs on the wall, but and a lot of times the stuff that I really like, I'll take digital photos of it, so I have it in my phone. I have the original Kenny Chesney 8x10 from like 1991 when he was on a little record label called Capricorn.
Oh my gosh. Well, when you talk about Brooks and Dunn, you have to say, you said you're friends with them, but how does that even evolve? Okay, you meet these two guys that are nobodies, and you hear their song, and you're like, oh, that's good. I mean, how does it evolve?
Well, because you're kind of connected to them that way, but then you have little personal things. I think the thing they always remember about me is in the early 90s, I got my first really nice pickup truck, brand new truck. And I had an event downtown. I was in one of those downtown parking garages, and as I was driving out of the parking garage, I paid my deal. The arm opens up as I'm driving through. The arm malfunctions. It's like wham, bam, 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 and it like puts these dings. They're right like
as you're driving through.
Yeah, so
I'm crying.
now the city paid for it, because the city owned the parking garage. But like the next week, Brooks and Dunn come to town, and we go to went to La Fogata over on Vance Jackson,
Yes.
And we came out, and I'm showing them my truck, and I'm telling them the story. So to this day, 20 some odd years later, every time I see them, they go, "Dude, every time we drive through one of those arms, we're laughing, thinking about you and your truck."
How awful. Why do things like that happen,
That's
right?
the way they remember me.
So when's the last time you saw them? When's the last time you talked to them?
It's actually been a few years since I talked to, I haven't seen Kix in a while, but I saw Ronnie about, I want to say about 5 years ago. We get to hang out a little bit. He was at Cowboys Dance Hall.
Nice.
And we had a nice visit. Good to catch up after a long time.
A couple of my friends have also, in the radio business, they meet what then you think is some dumb kid or teenager that then turns out to be like Taylor Swift or anything. Do you have that experience with her or somebody that was just a little kid that you thought, how can this person ever make it?
Kenny Chesney.
Oh, my God.
When he walked into my office in the early 90s, he was scared to death. I thought something was wrong with him. I really did.
He looked like 15 years old.
Because he was just like, I'd say something to him. He said, "Uh-huh, yes, sir. Yeah. Uh-huh, yeah." And I was like, "Come on, dude, come out of your shell or whatever." But he was just scared. I mean, he was a kid from Luttrell, Tennessee, from East Tennessee, and now he's sitting in some radio program director's office,
Yeah.
I wasn't much more than a kid back then either.
Yeah.
Right.
But Kenny would come through with his record label guy. I was playing music at the time. I was playing at the Bluebonnet Palace, and Kenny would pop in, and he would get on stage, and our little band would back him up.
Oh, my gosh.
and so then when he started playing, he would ask me to sing with him sometimes. So I have some great pictures of singing with Kenny. And even when I run into him from time to time, Kenny still jokes, "Hey, you gonna sing with me?" I said, "Yeah, you're gonna invite me up to Texas Stadium or
Oh, yeah.
or AT&T Stadium to play.
Yeah, this is no Bluebonnet.
That's right. It's not the Bluebonnet Palace.
Is there anyone you haven't met that you wanted to be in the country
You know,
business?
I was just discussing this the other day. I've never met Willie Nelson.
Oh, wow.
Never?
You better hurry.
Never met Willie Nelson.
You better hurry.
Oh, well,
How
yeah,
old is
you know,
he?
and I mean, I've met a lot of the great legends that I was fans of. You know, I've met George Jones.
Merle
I met
Haggard?
Merle Haggard. You know, I've got 2 or 3 Haggard stories. You know, Ray Price, I mentioned George Jones, but I've never met Willie Nelson. I've been at places where I probably could have, but I was like, oh. You know, and now I kick myself. Why didn't I just go over there and embarrass myself and say hi? You know?
Yeah.
Is there anybody, I know that this is the wrong question to ask, but is there anybody that turned out to be a real butthole?
Everybody always asks that, and I really always struggle really thinking of anybody who's that way. I don't
That's
think
good.
so. I will tell you this: probably the most impressive person I have met in music, and who treated me and my family better than anybody I've ever been treated by in the business, was Taylor Swift.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, you say what you want about Taylor Swift, but she is smart. She is engaging. She is a wonderful human being. I'll give you a little story. That'll blow your
Okay, yeah,
mind.
we're gonna hear a good story.
I want to say this would have been about 9 years ago. She played the AT&T Center. I took my youngest daughter. My oldest was away in college. Took my youngest daughter, and we went in, and they had a special room set up backstage, you know, where you go in, and it wasn't your typical meet and greet type thing. They said, go in here, make yourself at home. There's food, there's drinks, and it was set up like her apartment. They built this room like her apartment that she lives in, and so it's like kind of like she's at home with her friends. And they said when she comes in, you don't have to run over to her. You don't have to form a line. She'll just work her way around the room, visit with everybody. So Taylor comes in, and my daughter, it was a weeknight, so my daughter is studying. She's got tests the next day.
Funny.
And so Taylor comes over and visit with us, and we talk. And Haley goes, "Can you sign my homework notes?" You know, and so she autographs her homework notes and everything. And like 2 weeks later, I get a handwritten card in the mail. Open the little envelope up, and it's from Taylor, and it says, "Randy, thanks to you and Haley for coming out to my show. It really meant a lot." And she cracked me up when she had me sign her homework notes.
I have goosebumps.
Love Taylor.
I have goosebumps.
Okay, that's pretty impressive.
I have
is.
goosebumps.
Okay, fast forward 2 years, 2 or 3. My youngest daughter is in Atlanta chasing her career. My oldest daughter is back from college and married, and I take her to the Taylor Swift show. And we're backstage, and Taylor comes around, and I'm introducing her to Kelsey, and she's talking to her, and she looks at me and goes, "How's Haley?"
No way.
Do not.
That's exactly what I said. I said, "Just stop. There is no way you can." Oh, it was so funny. She had me sign her homework notes.
That's crazy.
I was floored. And of course, my oldest daughter standing there befuddled too. She's like, "You're kidding me."
Amazing.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine the kind of impact
No.
she just made on me
Right?
Yeah.
as a dad?
I know, because it's not just going through the movements. It's not, here's another night of.
Yeah, and I asked
same
her,
old,
I said,
same
"How
old."
do you remember that?" She goes, "I'm really good at remembering lyrics and things like this. There are other things in life. I have horrible memory, but I remember this." And the thing I noticed about Taylor is that she makes everybody feel important. From the youngest little fan that comes up, you know, she'll find something that they're wearing that's cute and compliment them on it, and that every person she meets walks away thinking like,
That was
"Man."
cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Memorable.
Exactly.
Wow, that's pretty interesting. That's a good story.
I know.
So in radio, what is the one thing that you struggled or failed with that thought, should I stop this? Should I keep on going? Was there ever a time where you thought about, maybe it's not for me?
Man, I don't know that I ever really did. There had to be some of those times. I know there have been hard times,
Right.
for sure. There have been times when you're you're struggling with a manager that hates you. You know, I remember early days I was programming the radio station, and they hired a new GM and brought him in, and one of the big corporate guys said, "Hey, look, don't let this guy mess with programming." And the very first thing that GM told me was, "We're going to change this radio station to be just like such and such station." I'm not going to give. And I was like, great. And so that turned out to be, a several-year nightmare working with that guy.
In mornings, when you work on morning shows, there is one thing that saves you, or saved me when I was doing it, and that is that you're a little bit insulated from the rest of the working world, because you get to do what you want on the radio, you get to feel good, and it's not until you get off that the reality hits that there's a corporate world, management, and everything else. Do you feel like maybe there's been a little bit of insulation around you because you worked outside of the regular working hours?
No, I don't think so. Because I've always been involved. I'm always been a big picture person. I'm always the guy who's going to, every 2 or 3 months, go sit down in the general manager's office and say, "Hey, how are we doing from your perspective? What's going on? Let me have the big picture here." I kind of want to. I know where I'm at in my lane in the company or in the radio station, but I also kind of want to know what the big picture is, what the big vision is for where we're headed, and I think that helps me stay in my lane better and be more focused by doing that. Does that answer?
No, it absolutely does, and I love that, because some people may be. They may say, "Okay, this guy's mean to me, and I'm the heck out of here right now." And others say, "This is just a temporary position in my life. I'm either going to get through it or not, and I'm going to continue on my path." And so, I would think that the artists that you have met and the stars in the country music world must have said the same thing to themselves, don't you think?
Oh, I think so. I mean, there's countless stories of artists who were like, "Well, I'm going to give up."
Right.
From Garth Brooks to Randy Travis, who was washing dishes at the Nashville Palace in Nashville when he got his break. So everybody hits a place where you, I think, where you go, "Oh, I may turn around, but I didn't."
But I'm too dumb, so I'm going to keep going.
So we talked about some of the bigger stars that you've met and talked with and stuff. How involved are you in people locally in San Antonio, some of the local artists?
Well, I mean, you get involved with them because they're always wanting advice. Hey, how do we break out of where we are, and that sort of thing. And not everybody wants to do that. Everybody is sometimes they're content doing it as a hobby and making a little money on the side too. But I'm just naturally, as a musician, I'm just naturally drawn to other musicians.
And are you playing? Do you play? You play a little bit of guitar and sing?
Yeah, I do. In fact, I just recently started playing again. Mario Flores and the Soda Creek Band, it's a country band that plays around here. Mario's become a friend of mine, and when he'd be out playing somewhere and I'm there, he would ask me to get up and sing a song or two. And now I'm at a place in my life where I have a little more time, and so he's invited me to play with him. So I'm playing with him on a regular basis.
So the next thing that we do, which Randy, unless you listen to the podcast, you haven't heard before, is Karen's question of the day.
Girl, I got a question for you. Can I get an answer? Yeah.
You got to tell them the rules, though.
Everyone knows the rules. You get one question. She only gets one question.
One
she can ask about
question.
anything she wants.
What are the rules?
No rules.
Everyone knows the rules. She gets one question.
That's the only rule there is.
Oh, okay, got it.
Okay, so I was doing the digging and looking in your background, and I was like, "Oh, he went to Pleasanton High." So my question today, and it's the one question, I want to stick with the one question, is what is the admission to get into the Longhorn Museum in Pleasanton, and what is the name of the librarian at the library now?
I have no idea on either one of them. But I will tell you this interesting fact about the Longhorn Museum.
See? Tell ya.
What is it?
All right, the little radio station in Pleasanton, KBOP.
Yes.
The guy who founded the Longhorn Museum once owned the radio station.
Unbelievable.
And guess who worked as a DJ there in the 50s?
I don't know. Who?
Willie Nelson.
It all comes back
And
around.
if you go to the Longhorn Museum, you will see Willie Nelson's FCC license.
That's amazing. How did they get that?
That's in the Longhorn Museum.
Okay.
How did you get that out of your question?
I don't know. I just looked it up. By the way, to get into the Longhorn Museum in Pleasanton, it's only by donation, whatever you want to give. And a shout out to Dorothy Steelman. She's the librarian right now
How
at the
would you-
library.
Do you live over there?
No.
You live in Alamo Heights.
No, I have Google. I have the Google.
She hangs out with librarians on the weekend.
I know. What do you do?
It has been a pleasure talking to you, Randy. Thank you so much for coming by.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming back. It was a good show.
Hey, Dorothy. Shout out to Dorothy.
Shout out to Dorothy. Maybe you can go get some library books for
I'm
me.
going to go.
Okay. Well, thank y'all for listening to The Art of Improvement. We'll see y'all next week.